Hi guys, just wanted to put together a little video about identifying brake pads on a 2020 Discovery 5 HSE. Had a lot of trouble trying to get a cross-reference to the brake pads that would be used on this vehicle. Most of the websites that you go to, like Supercheap or Repco, they don't seem to cover this vehicle. It doesn't come up in their website. So I wanted to go through some identifying features. So it's a HSE. This is the 3 litre, so it's not the 2 litre version, it's a 3 litre. So, and it's got a hybrid caliper. It's a Land Rover / Brembo caliper. It's a 4-piston caliper. So, and it doesn't have any of the identifying features like a Brembo caliper would have on here, and it's not the red one or yellow one that you find on the Range Rover Sports. So identifying features, it's actually got Land Rover written up on top. I'm not sure if we'll be able to see that, but maybe you can see Land Rover up here and Brembo down here. So it might be a bit difficult to recognise, but it is a solid, it's a 2-piece aluminium casting, and it's got 4 bolts holding the 2 castings together, and you cannot remove the pads from the rear like you can on a Bendix. A Brembo caliper. So taking them out, we'll go through that in a moment, but this is the caliper that we were looking for, the pads. We ended up buying what was traditionally non-Brembo calipers. We got the wrong pads, so that's where we got to a situation of how do we identify what pads they are. In the end, I was able to identify the caliper from photographs and get the Land Rover number, and then go back and find out what the pads are. And finding the pads locally in Australia is also a bit difficult. You can buy them online from Superstore Automotive. That's one location. But at the end, if you have this caliper fitted to your car and you need to identify what pads they are before you take them out, so it's a 4-piston aluminium caliper from Brembo with the branding Land Rover on it, and it doesn't have the single bolt through the back. So 4-piston. And the identification of that is, I'll leave this on here for a little bit so you can read it, but it's a Disco 5 2020 HSE version. Front caliper is a 4-piston caliper from Brembo, but it's got the part number from Land Rover LR110097, and the pads that fit that caliper are Land Rover number LR149626 and Land Rover 157174. Probably 2 different compounds. That's what's down here for Brembo. So Brembo, we've got P44029 and P44029N, N being like a ceramic fill. And the identifying features are the actual pad's only 152.3 long. Typically Brembo's are 6-pot calipers, and they take a pad that's about 190 millimeters long, and the depth of it is 96.2. So these are the physical pads that came out of the vehicle. So, and you can see, I'm not sure if it's clear, but it's 152 millimeters long, and if you were to tick the graduations there to there, it's about 96 wide. They have balance weights on the end, on all 4 ends, clearly only 2-piston, and these have the identifying, it's pretty hard to read here, but this says Brembo on it, but it doesn't have the proper Brembo part number anywhere. Actually, it's even got a Ferodo part number on the backing plate. So just a little video to identify which pads you need, so for this vehicle, so you can buy them before you start pulling them out. If you're going to change them yourself, as do I always do, recommendation is to use a drift pin, push these 2 pins back. They're held in the caliper at the back here with a little spring on the pin. So this is what the pins look like. They have a little spring clip on the end. So you just knock them back, freeing up the pads. Those pins go through these slots effectively and lock the pad from going forward. When you remove those pins, is pull them out the back. Take a screwdriver, wedge it between the two balance plates, just gently, just knocking the pistons back a little way. Be careful if your pads are low and you've had your vehicle in for service, or you do it yourself, you may have topped up your reservoir, therefore it's got more oil in it than what you need, and so you need to pop the reservoir open, pull a little bit of fluid out of it with a syringe and discard that before you start pushing the pads right back. Then there's two bolts in the back, and I'll see if I can see that from the other side. We've taken this caliper off, so this caliper's off. So there's two bolts that go through the back of the carrier back here. So back here there's two bolts, one there and one down lower. They pick up on the threads in the actual caliper here and here. Clearly it's a 4-piston caliper, not a sliding caliper. And make sure when you're taking the caliper off that you support the caliper. It's got the sensor on it back here. It's also got the hose, so you don't want any load on those. We've got it supported on a transmission jack here while we go through this process of changing the pads. They also have a retaining spring or a pressure spring in the back here, and that when you push the pads back in, you've got to push them in, drop the drift pin through to hold the pads back, and then slide them onto the caliper, refit the Torx, the bolts on the back, and check your Torx. We haven't done that yet, so they are very tight. So, and then make sure you pull the pedal up before you take off, ensuring you've got good brake pressure. So that's a quick overview of changing the brake pads. Not a difficult job, similar to most others. Unfortunately, you have to take the whole caliper off to get the pads out the front. They didn't do it like the Brembos where you can pull them out. So just a quick little video for those DIYs with a special Land Rover Brembo caliper. So I'll get that uploaded, and that way anyone doing stuff on their own can get the pads before they start pulling the car apart. So I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Bye.